guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We are doing this one surrounded by my potatoes, my seed potatoes. Can you see those? I'm guessing you can in the camera angle. Yeah. I can't believe that I haven't put my potatoes in the ground yet, and here we are almost in May.
It's a slow year.
It is. Usually this chore is done by the very first part of April, so we'll get them in and we'll get potatoes from them.
I have a spider.
Oh, you do?
On my microphone.
I think it just twirled around. I saw that. And as we speak, the brick patio by the Hartley is being worked on. So
amazing.
Yeah. I asked him if it is at all possible, can we have this done by May 1st? This project is supposed to be done last fall. So I think they might be fairly close.
We just have a couple areas left to button up. I mean,
we have a lot of areas to add plants to, but in terms of,
Yeah. So we need to get the
brickwork and
the patio done, the pond, the north garden. And then we've just got those two areas in front of the house that are still like pretty empty.
Yeah.
So we're making our way though.
Have some brain space to think about those areas.
And then next year, the new property. What are we going to do out there?
I have no horses. Pasture.
Hostas.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into the videos from this past week. First one is replacing a fruit tree and planting some gorgeous perennials. So I finally dug out that red Bartlett pear behind the fruit shed that had fire blight. It had it 2 consecutive seasons, and usually, I don't think it reinfects. Like once your tree has fire blight, it doesn't mean it's going to have fire blight the next year. It's not like, yeah. So I did give it ample time to kind of come out of whatever it was doing, and I had to cut the leader out of it, and then I only had one branch on it that looked like viable fruit were going to form, so I didn't even try to save it. Dug it out, replaced it with a nectarine flavor top? Or is that the brand of applesauce that Samantha was just eating? What is it? What's it called?
Maybe it's one and the same.
Can't remember. Fantasia and... I'm trying to remember the 2 varieties we always get in Andrews. There's Fantasia and what is it? Do you ever do that where you just like... Thank you for the music, Aaron. It is so helpful.
Then it modulates.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. Okay. Flavor top. Yes, I was right. That just sounded wrong. It sounded like... Anyway.
Flavor top?
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay. And then I planted some perennials around the flower shed and a couple on the west side garden. Some epimedium, which I've never had before, and so I'm very excited to see it grow. Hopefully it grows. It likes acid soil, so we'll see what happens. Mary McCormick said, what type of Budlia did you mention along with sedum, salvia, and Russian sage? I have an area that grass doesn't grow to near maple trees. I'll give these plants a try. In terms of Budlia, we use a lot of Miss Violet. I love that variety. I like the purple. Miss Ruby is another really pretty one. I like Purple Haze. Is gorgeous and has kind of like a more of a horizontal growth habit. Ruby chip, blue chip, microchip, pink and white. I'm trying to think of all the varieties we have. We can't grow all of the Budlias because in our state they are restricted. We can only grow sterile varieties because on the western side of the state they do spread. They drop seed and spread. Here in the eastern side of the state they do not. We do not have favorable conditions for that to happen, but we get lumped in with the whole state, so we can't do like the Pugster series, which I love. They've got huge big fat blooms.
All we have to do is drive about 3 miles away, buy one, drive it home, and plant it.
Illegal.
I don't think that's not illegal. It's illegal to sell, but it's not illegal to grow, right?
I think it's discouraged if it's restricted.
They probably do have laws about we
don't have any illegal Budlias in our garden.
It sounds weird like crossing state lines, but we cross state lines literally every day.
Yeah. Tina said, what causes the heucherellas to grow out like that? Like they're growing out of the ground. I have several doing that. I dug it up and reset it. Another, I pushed more dirt up around it. Any advice? You know what? I actually asked the professional growers about that one year, and they said that some varieties do it worse than others, and a lot of times it happens with the age of the plant. So they gave 3 options. One, you can reset it like you did, dig it up, dig a new hole, bury it deeper. You can push up dirt around it. That was option number 2. And the third option was to cut it back and try to reflush growth around the base of the stem. Those are the 3 options I was given. We typically, when we get those long stems, we just cut them back and just kind of we'll see what happens sort of a deal. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work as well. Marlboro, I couldn't say that word. Chicken said, do you ever need to divide your hostas? No, I wish. I wish hostas were a plant that needed to be divided here. We have done it before. We did a video forever ago on dividing hostas because I did have quite a large one, but our hostas, like if I could maintain even just the shape of one hosta during one season.
Yeah, hostas are one of those plants that we just wish grew better here.
Yeah, they grow and they're gorgeous in the spring and they like our soil and all that. It's the wind and the dry heat. By the end of the season, we've groomed off so many tattered, like brown edged hosta leaves that we're left with very little unless you have them planted in a very protected area. Like under our birch tree by the portico, that's probably one of the best areas for hostas in our garden. We still have to groom quite a bit off because they still get the brown tips.
Your mom always says that they want
dry shade.
They want dry shade. I don't think that's true.
No, I don't think that's true either. In fact, I learned also from the growers, like the great big one, the Empress Wu hostas that'll get like massive. They won't get massive unless they get a lot of water. Like they have to have a lot of consistent water. Yeah. In fact, Greg Whitstock planted a hosta in our pond.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had an autumn frost hosta in a can, and he was like, you can just take it out. He like knocked all the soil off, wrapped some like fabric, almost like landscape fabric. Well, it was lighter than landscape fabric, but it was just like to contain the roots, and he just plunked it right down into the water.
Rot.
Apparently not. Huh. He said they do it all the time.
We need to play with that.
I know. I thought that was really interesting. Pokester said, I'm addicted to your channel, so much great information and beautiful gardens. I have a new area to plant, but find myself so confused. Maybe overthinking. I do that sometimes. Where do you start? Evergreens. Evergreens and shade trees. Where do you start? Size of area, color scheme, sun/shade, dry, wet. I have so many wants and ideas, but don't know where to begin. Any suggestions? Okay, so definitely know what your soil, what you're dealing with at a ground level, because if you need to amend and add some things in, now's a great time to do that when it's clear. Also, figuring out the light in that space is vital. You want to make sure you're picking out the right kind of plants for the type of area you get. So 4 to 6, less than 4 hours is a full shade situation. 4 to 6 hours of sunshine is a part shade situation, and 4 to 6 hours, 6 to 8 plus hours is full sun. So anyway, kind of gauge that. What else? Start with your bone structure plants, so trees and evergreens, get those things in. And I know sometimes like you want to go for the colorful things, the things that are pretty to your eye, but trust me, you get that bone structure in to where it looks pretty all year long, and you will thank yourself. Add the colorful stuff later. Any other suggestions on that front?
Yeah.
I don't always follow those rules. Sorry.
I wonder if some people, depending on the area, like you might already have a lot of trees. And so maybe that's not even something that you really want to consider, and you really just want to plant.
It's assessing the spot. Like, what do you want from this spot?
Like, we don't have trees in our natural environment, so we plant a lot of trees around our homes. Mm-hmm. But in other areas, it may be different, where you don't really want trees around your home. You want, because they're everywhere else.
And you want sun.
You want some sun. You want to be able to grow like a vegetable garden, or have smaller plants. I can't really relate to that, but.
Well, everybody's situation is different. It's just assessing your space, deciding what you want from it, and then starting with the soil and working up from there.
Yeah.
Nancy said, lovely plants as always. Where does fire blight come from? Is there any concern about planting in the same location? It's not soil. There's no issue planting in the same spot. It's not going to affect it at all. It's something that's spread in the spring when the flowers are open, and it's spread by wind and pollinators and things like that, and usually when it's really wet. I did talk about it in a video like 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe we can scrounge up that link and put it in there.
Scrounge it.
So we'll have to scrounge up that link. Julie said, what are the plants that you call bishop's hat? They look like epimedium, but with a lovely hot pink bloom. That's what they are. And it's one of those things, once I read the tag, I looked at it and I thought, that's a woodland acid-loving plant. I bet you anything. And sure enough, that's what it is. So I haven't seen them. And it was like such a wonderful plant find because we just probably can't grow them in our area very easily. So, it's nice that they only had 3 left. So I got the 3. We'll see how it goes. They're in kind of a shaded area underneath the juniper. I did toss some soil acidifier in the soil, so we'll see if I can keep up on that. Yeah. Lori H said, are you not concerned with planting so close to the foundation? I've noticed that you plant things close to the foundation and tree trunks. That would be a problem in the East Coast with moisture too close. That usually causes problems. Yeah, again, it's just every area is a little bit different. Everything acts a little bit differently in different areas. You know, what do I plant close to the foundation? I don't have like a lot of trees and such. I mean, the big juniper was already there, obviously. That juniper is like, I don't know, 100 years old.
Yeah, I wonder.
I do have like smallish trees, like Japanese maples, but those are like a shrub for us. They don't grow like trees here. So I bet that's kind of confusing too. Somebody sees me planting something that can get massive in their natural landscape, and ours, it's like, it'll stay 8 feet, maybe.
Yeah.
Mark said, are you still going to do an outdoor veggie cleaning / processing station behind the shed? Probably not. I thought about that at one point, putting a table back there so I could clean things, but I don't want to clean things right up next to white siding. I'm kind of learning that now that I've been like watering pots and plants next to it and it splatters up on the siding. I don't really want to make the thing messy.
Sure.
I usually wash off all my stuff in the hydrant right by the barn. It's like right on gravel, so it's really easy to clean up any kind of mess right there. Marco Photo said, has anyone told you look like Jennifer Aniston? Yeah, I've heard that. I think it's just hair color. That is a funny comment though, because I've seen that like for the last, the whole time we've been making videos. I don't really see it. Well, no. But I guess maybe the hair. I think it's the hair. Sure. Probably. Dawn said, I know you like willow trees. Wondering if you've ever planted a dappled willow tree. Do you not like them? They're a pretty decorative tree. You know, I've not ever planted one. I think they are pretty, but they are a little bit wild for me. I think in certain situations they can look really pretty. And if I could commit to keeping something like that pruned, I could probably do it. The wonderful thing about dappled willows is you get the green, the white, and the pink kind of variegation, and it's got kind of a glow quality. It looks really pretty, like at dusk, it really shines. But I just, the habit of that plant is just like, a little bit much. I can barely keep up with pruning our willow trees that we have. Yeah. So I have to know my strengths and I'm pretty good at pruning them. Yes, you are so good at that. We all knew it. Thank you for confirming. Next video is planting beautiful perennials and training Lonicera topiary. So I planted out some hellebores and heucheras that I had left over from spring projects, and then we trimmed up and moved the Lonicera topiaries. It was just a project we were working on, an experiment, into the Hartley. Basquiat said, do you ever worry about planting out perennials with the freezing temperatures still happening at night? I bought some flats of young perennials from a nursery, and I'm worried about the potential temperatures dipping below freezing at night. We are in a zone 5. Think that would be okay? You know, it kind of just depends on where those perennials have been. So the hellebores and heucheras spent a bunch of time in the greenhouse where it was warm. Like it didn't go below, 55, 60 in there at night. And so I knew, like, they're tough perennials. They're tough enough to withstand freezing, and certainly a lot further below freezing, but not if they've been coddled in a warm greenhouse. So I gradually moved them out, and they had been spending the prior week or 2 weeks probably of time just sitting outside. So I just hardened them off kind of like we do seedlings. So if you're picking up perennials at a garden center where they're outside and they've been outside for a while, you're good to go getting them in the ground no matter really what's going to happen. In fact, they're more insulated and protected in the ground as opposed to being in a container. If they have been in a warm situation, though, you really need to be mindful of that. That's it. It's just giving them the proper hardening time so they can handle it. Liz said, can I make a soil acidifier and keep it acidic to grow non-native plants? You can. I mean, that's why we do it so sparingly, because it is a difficult thing. We've got high pH, so it's very alkaline here, and even our water is high pH, so it's a constant. So having just 3, like those 3 epimedium, as opposed to planting a huge bed full of them. I've been told that it's an uphill battle. Yeah. Always going to be an uphill battle. It's not that it can't be done. Mm-hmm. It just prepare yourself. Yeah. For an uphill battle. Yeah. And that's why all of our blueberries are in containers, because those also like a fairly low pH, very acidic soil. And they just, even if we tried to amend our soil with soil acidifier, it would not be low enough for blueberries. Do we need to use soil acidifier on the raspberries? No. Oh. I mean, you can, I suppose. I did, actually. I did soil acidifier.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because they tend to deal with chlorosis.
Oh.
And so I'm figuring if we bring the pH down a bit, it'll unlock nutrients that they can handle. But raspberries typically do okay. I think they might like it a little bit on the acidic side, but not like blueberries. Blueberries like it pretty low. So containers is how we go there. And even then we struggle because of our water. It just leaches that acidity out so fast. Brooke said, you have mentioned that heuchera aren't the best about coming back. Yes, the following years. Which varieties have been the most reliable? Spearmint is a really good one. Let me look. I've got a list somewhere. Let's see. The frosted berry, peach berry ice has been pretty good. The black pearl has been really good. Silver gumdrop comes up pretty nicely. Yeah, those are the ones I had the best luck with. Barbara said, please help, potting mix versus potting soil. I've been told there's no soil in potting mix. So what's the difference between the two and what are their uses? Which to use in pots, what in hanging baskets in the ground? I don't understand what to use. Potting mix versus potting soil.
Well, I think, yeah, if it says soil, it probably is like dirt. I don't really know. I do know that I don't think there's any dirt in potting mix. I think it's like a growing medium. Mm-hmm. Plants don't need dirt necessarily to grow. I mean, you can do aquaponics, hydroponics.
And
aquaponics
grow things. Is a thing.
You can grow a lot of plants in water, provided they have the nutrients that they need. Mm-hmm. It's a gnat. Mm. So anyway, I don't really know all the ins and outs, but I do think that she might be correct that like potting mix doesn't have any soil, any dirt, but a potting soil does. I don't really know.
Pass on that question. Just don't put dirt in your containers. That's the only thing. We use the Espoma organic potting soil. It works really well for us and has for years and years. I think so. This is potting mix. Yeah. That's what we use is the potting mix and have for years with really good results. When you put regular garden soil and stuff in your containers, it compacts and it's not good at all. So, yeah. Allison Vintage said, when you replace the lilac on the west side, will you put another lilac or something else in its place? You know, I would love for that lilac to live forever, and that's why it's still there, because I do like the structure of it, even though there's a lot of dead in it. It still blooms every year a little bit, but that's where our flush out is too for our drips, which it goes off, 1 minute every day, Erin? It saturates that soil and keeps it pretty wet. Like, because it flushes every day, it's not getting a break, and lilacs don't really like to have wet feet. So we
will be able so that's still on the old system. I'm waiting for Benny to connect in those last couple zones. There's only 4 zones left that need to be connected.
Oh.
Well, actually there's more than that, but in that area there's 4. And then I'll be able to get it down to 15 seconds, which will be helpful. But right now it goes off for a minute.
Yeah.
Which, is a lot of water. 1 minute of a hose going off is
quite a lot.
But that's the shortest amount of time that zone can go off.
Yeah.
But on the other system, you can do it for 15 seconds. So.
I haven't really decided what I would put there. I thought for a while that I would put like the Indian magic crabapple that we just planted out in the south garden because it's such a beautiful tree. I think I would like something multi-trunk there though, something that stays smaller, kind of like the lilac stature, because that really is the size I would need because there's a huge Shade Master honey locust right next to it, so it's got to stay kind of under that canopy. But I haven't really given a ton of thought to what I'd put there. Doreen said you may have mentioned, and I missed it, but do those English daisies stay in bloom for long, and do you expect them to create one big mass there? I don't really know what they're going to do out there. Hopefully they create a big mass. They bloom for a long time in their container, like weeks and weeks and weeks in the spring. So if they created a mass and bloomed for weeks and weeks and weeks outside, I would be very happy with that. Fran said, when you look around at all the things you need to do, does it feel overwhelming? If so, what's the trick to staying positive and motivated considering the amount of work you need to do to keep your gorgeous place looking so tidy? Well, as many of you know, we are very, very lucky to have Paul and Bethany, who help us outside. Paul works for us full time and year round. Like he helps us with Christmas lights and all kinds of stuff. And then Bethany works part-time for us, and they are just a godsend. I rarely feel overwhelmed by stuff outside because we have such a good crew helping us out. And we do, quite a bit of it too, as we can. Like you do all of the lawn maintenance and...
Yeah, except for weeding. Spring is probably the one time where, everything kind of happens all at once.
Yeah.
So like right now, I feel like all of our beds could be fully mulched and almost none of them are mulched right now with compost. So things like that, I get a little bit like, because everything needs to, all the weeds come up right now. Everything needs to be mulched right now. And then we start getting all our plants, and like now's the time to plant.
Yeah.
So everything happens at the same time.
Yeah. I think that I have days where I'll feel a little overwhelmed by it, but it's not a consistent feeling. It's not all the time. And most of the time, I think I've chilled out a little bit, in that I know it'll get handled at some point.
Yeah, you just do what you can do.
You do what you can do. If you feel, for me, if I feel like I've been productive and I could put a nice big check mark at the end of a day, like I got some good things done, then I feel good about it. Like you can only do what you can do, what you have time for and what you want to allot time for too. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we're doing and spending time with the kids and all that sort of business that you can't do it 24/7. Danielle said, how do you keep the grape hyacinths from spreading all over your place? Again, they do spread. They do spread here, and they are one of those that you have to like physically dig the bulbs out in order to get them out. But they don't spread like wildfire like they do in some areas. I really like them. I think they're so pretty, and I probably like them because they aren't taking over spots. They're beautiful in the orchard. In fact, we were driving around with the kids last night looking at things and the dirt pile. The kids played in the dirt pile for a long time last night. Oh my gosh, they were just covered in
Samantha
dirt.
lost her shoes in the dirt pile.
Yeah, I couldn't find them. So she took her shoes off in the dirt pile and she was using them as like containers. She was putting soil in the shoes and dumping it out. And I thought, okay, that's where I see those shoes. So I'll go get them when they're all done playing. And I started digging around in the area and I cannot find them.
They'll just decompose.
Well, Benjamin's excited later today. He said he wanted to go get a shovel and go try to hunt for treasure. So we'll do that later on. But anyway, we were driving around and we drove by the orchard, and I even mentioned to you, like, this fall I want to put more in there. More of the muscari. They're so pretty. Next video is shopping/tour at the garden center. I was racing a storm. I wanted to go down and show you guys what the garden center was looking like right now, as opposed to we'll probably do like a full nursery tour, or maybe you're holding the camera when the annuals start to show up. Like we haven't even, I don't think the garden center has any petunias or anything like that yet. Very soon, like probably in the next week, but we'll go back down when it's full of color. Anyway, I wanted to show you what it was looking like and get a few things. And it kind of got gray and rainy-ish, but not bad. It looked like we were in for it. The sky was so dark. Loretta said, as you look at the roses, brings to mind a question. My daughter wants roses that are considered edible. Can you share your expertise on that? I have no expertise on that.
Are there edible roses?
Well, I think they're all edible, aren't they?
Are they?
Like, don't spray them with anything because then they're not edible, I would think. But I think the rose petals, don't quote me on that, but I think most rose petals are edible.
Do they taste good?
No flowers taste good.
I can't imagine that it would be.
No. Anybody who says a flower tastes good, like, what is wrong with you?
What is it, just like a little extra fiber for your diet?
I don't know, but they're like most of the time it's like bitterness. Oh, no thank you.
Get out the ranch.
Yeah, exactly. Elizabeth said, I just got one of those blow torches too. Yeah. My mom gave it to me as a gift, and I love it. It's been amazing for weeds. What are you using it for? Well, weeds, right? You haven't tried it yet.
Paul got a couple of those small, like little Coleman propane tanks to put on it. So it'll be really lightweight. So we're going to try it out in the like gravel areas and just try to burn weeds and see how it goes.
That would be so nice.
Yeah.
So nice.
I guess I heard that you don't want to actually like torch the weed all the way down to the ground. Like you don't want to incinerate it. You want to like harm it or damage it. And that'll actually send the signal down into the roots that it's been damaged, and it won't try to grow anymore. Oh. Whereas if you like incinerate it too quickly, it's almost like it like
chopping it off.
Kind of like,
soil.
Cauterizes it or whatever. And so the roots stay there and then it just grows back. But the idea is to harm it. I heard that on the internet. It could be false.
Roger said, I'd need that butterfly bubbler for a gift to my sister for Mother's Day. Will Andrews ship to Tennessee? Oh my. You can call them. They would ship it, I think. It would be, I don't even know how expensive that would be. It's heavy little fountains. They're thick. But they are really neat looking. Jamie said, I have a hedge of lilacs that were planted there by my mom about 45 years ago. They aren't hardly blooming anymore. Would a rejuvenation prune and then fertilization help? I'm sure it would. I know that by cutting them back, I may not see blooms for a few years, but they aren't blooming much anyway. I would love to visit Andrews, but if I lived too close, I'd be broke. Yeah, you know, it'd be a hard thing to do, and it's always a risk to do a hard prune like that, but it's definitely worth a shot. If they're not performing anymore, a rejuvenation prune can really do wonders. Usually with lilacs, you do that right after they're done blooming. Whatever kind of meager blooms you get, you can go in and rejuvenate them, and they may push, well, they should, you know, if they've got a healthy root system, push new growth this year, and you might get some blooms next year. But yeah, some good flower tone or plant tone or anything like that, put that around them.
Holly tone?
Holly tone, yeah. Although lilacs like high pH.
Oh.
So, but holly tone would be fine. Meh said, could you not pot fruit trees in different areas of the garden that are not the orchard? You absolutely could, but you do have to consider the mess that they will leave, you know, after the fruit start. If you harvest every last piece of fruit, then you're good to go. But if you don't, then the fruit falls, and then it, you know.
It's messy.
It's messy. Yeah, it's messy. It attracts skunks. We have skunks in our area, and usually right around the time the fruit starts to fall on the ground, that's when they come out and feast. They're so cute.
You know, I haven't seen the foxes in a long time. I just thought
haven't
about
either.
that. For a while, I saw the foxes every single night, and then none at all. I wonder if somebody trapped them, or if
that would be a shame. They're
moved on.
So pretty. Like big foxes.
Yeah, they were really pretty foxes.
Big tails.
Foxes are kind of like majestic looking creatures, I feel like.
Well, the fox would run under the fence, and then out would come a raccoon, and then one of our cats.
Yeah.
Like everybody was running together at night.
Friends.
Yeah, they were. Lydia said, with the roses, do you not deal with black spot? If so, what do you use for it? We do not deal with black spot here. Sorry, for those of you who do. I know that that's a big thing.
Lucky.
Yeah. Jessie said, would you be able to do a video on the different type of roses? I realized after this video and the rose garden video, I have no clue. I think that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. I really kind of thought about that afterward, how I was throwing out like grandiflora, floribunda, and all those things, and not really giving a lot of explanation about what each one of them was. I do think that could be a really great thing to talk about. And I do think we're getting another shipment from Heirloom Roses today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have a few more roses to put in the ground. So maybe that'd be a good time to sit down and maybe talk through those differences. Next video was finally planting ranunculus and anemones. A month later than we normally do, again, because of our weather. I just went through the basics on the ranunculus and anemones pre-sprout process, showed you what they look like, and then got them in the ground. It was a pretty fast project. It was so windy out that I had to stop early and go water things. So I don't even think that video was very long.
Yeah, it was like a normal length of video.
Was it?
It was over 10 minutes.
Every time I do something like that, and then I feel like I need to add something else in there because, you know, and it was a repeat of last year because I did the same exact thing last year, but, you know, those things just roll around every year.
Probably do it again next year.
Probably. Chrissy said, when do you usually dig them up? What month usually? Well, it kind of depends. This year, I have no idea. We have a day. Did you see that's getting close to 90 on our forecast? Like our daffodils are just starting to, most of them, like up by the house, are just starting to open. And if we get 90 degrees days, we'll have like daffodil flowers for a few days and then they'll just be gone.
Wow.
We usually dig them up after the leaves start to yellow and die back. So that will vary depending on the year. Usually, I want to say it's like end of June, July-ish. For us, we dig them and get them stored. It's right around the time we harvest onions and garlic. And then it gives us time to put in another crop of flowers, though. Last year, I started some zinnias in the greenhouse so that when those were pulled, I had a chance to go out and plant something else. And they were already up and growing in the greenhouse, so it was perfect. Chris said, did I miss the video of you finishing your sister's garden? No, Pedro's crew, the project ended up being a little bigger than we all thought it was going to be. So they're actually there today to finish. And I'm not filming that because I think we got a good enough idea with the first video what needed to be finished. They just needed to put in some stairs and then we're going to level out the ground. So I will be back. We've already figured out a lot of details in terms of, now we know exact measurements of what space we have left now that the rock wall is in. So we know what kind of raised bed situation we're going to go with. And so we'll be back very, very soon. I'm excited to see it after today and see it completely buttoned up. Tina said, whatever happened to that area that you put in the waterfall? I haven't seen it in any of your tours lately. We cleared that area like a year ago. So we've done several tours of that space. It's where the Hartley is. We actually, when we put that in, I loved it. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. We didn't know we were putting in the Hartley at the time we put in the fountain. And then we decided to do that in the Hartley in the winter time after that waterfall was put in. So we did dig it up last spring. We still have all the parts and pieces, and we'll probably put it back in the south garden. Anyway, yeah.
You know, a guy is going to come pick it up. Chris is going to come pick all the parts up.
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. So when we did that, so Aquascape, we have a ton of Aquascape products.
Yeah.
Like we could open a little shop. And so the Aquascape, like the licensed Aquascape guy is coming to, he is actually going to help us with a project in the North Garden. So he's coming to get all that stuff because he said he could use it, which is great.
Yeah.
We might even use some of it on our projects, but.
Yeah, well, we might use that same size in the future. We might use a different size in the future. It's like it might as well just go to use for now. It's like if somebody can use it, let's go ahead and put it in use, and then we'll just figure out the difference later, whatever size we put in.
Right. It was real pretty. They did a great job on that. Cynthia said, since there is a possibility for the ranunculus and anemones to come back in your climate, why don't you plant some in your landscape? Again, it's one of those things that when you have something that's short-lived, you know, the ranunculus will bloom, they look beautiful for a little while, and then their leaves, it's like bulbs. They die back, and then you don't see them for the rest of the season. So I'm really reluctant to dedicate too much space to crops like that. Like bulbs you can put in and around, and I suppose you could do that with ranunculus as well. But I don't want to really deal with a lot more dying foliage in flower beds. Like you're kind of used to it with the bulbs.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to add more to that. And they're so easy to dig. Like they're one of those things that if you're going to dig anything, dig those because they don't have to be stored in special like vermiculite that's slightly moistened. They don't have to be checked on. You just dig them up, cut the leaves off, and put them in a paper bag somewhere. I mean, they're so easy to store. And they just pull right out. You know, we've got them planted out in that fluffy compost. So there's like, you barely even have to use a shovel. You just pull them out quick and put them in a pile. Zachary said, I planted anemones in zone 8B March 1st. No blooms yet, but they are floppy. Why are they so floppy? It could be a weather thing if it got warm too fast or if they're not getting enough moisture. That sort of thing. It's kind of one of those that you have to kind of start watching what's going on and try to determine if there's something that you could do to make it better, if they are drying out a little bit too much or not. Yeah, that's a hard one to answer. Everything's so related to climate and where you're at and soil conditions and all of that. Lilarella said, I have a question unrelated to the video. I live in an opposite season climate New Zealand, zone 10A. We are in autumn and I'm planting bulbs in my urns. Can I plant violas on top of them and water them? Oh, yes. Violas thrive in our winter, or do bulbs need to stay dry through off-season? No, it's really important to not keep them, or to keep them slightly moist, not wet and not completely dried out. So doing a layered planter like that is just absolutely fine. And the last video from this week was the exciting windy weeding day.
I like how you put
I put the exciting
title.
in there just to bring some positivity.
Some pizzazz.
Yeah, I don't mind the weeding part. The wind part, though, is a little tough to deal with sometimes. But we did do a mini bulb tour because there was some color starting to show in some of the tulips, and I wanted to at least get that in so you guys could see it. We're getting close to, I think, doing another full tour because things have woken up quite a bit more since the last tour. Deb said, your tulips and daffodils are looking so nice. Do you make flower arrangements with them? And if you do, what kind of fillers do you add to the arrangements? I do make flower arrangements, not a lot this year so far. You know what? For my birthday a little while back, my sister, her present to me, she got a big 5-gallon bucket and just went to the store and bought a ton of flowers, like hydrangeas and blue delphiniums and yellow roses and just a bunch of stuff. And she just gave me the bucket, like, here, I know you love to arrange flowers. This is your gift, which is so perfect. I loved it. So right now, the arrangement's starting to look a little bit like meh at this point, but it was this big, beautiful thing on the counter, and I loved it. But as far as daffodils and tulips, I haven't cut any tulips yet this year because they're just starting to show color. Daffs, I have cut a couple bundles of those and just used, I like just single, like mono bouquets sometimes. But if I'm doing a big mixed arrangement, oftentimes I'll use like viburnum branches or branches out of an ornamental crabapple or cherry or something like that. I use willow branches because those typically leaf out sooner than a lot of other things. I'll tuck in heuchera leaves, brunnera leaves if we have some out. I'm trying to think of what else I use. Just whatever's like kind of pops out, I guess, in the landscape. Sometimes I'll just use branches. Seth said, the patio update has me so excited. Which unique stone fountain are you thinking for that space? If you choose a fountain, of course. The bulbs are amazing. Can't wait to see the alliums. Yeah, so at the very end of the video, I took you over and showed you where they had just trenched over water and electrical. They stubbed that up in the center of our brick patio area, and they've got about half the bricks down at this point. And we are filming, we're filming a time lapse, I think, of that project to show that going in. And I think they'll be done, and then maybe by the end of next week. I thought they might be done by this week, but I think they have to shift the whole thing. Really? Well, you stand at the Hartley, and I'm looking at the bricks, and they go off to the left. I'm like, they need to be straight. Like, who's running lines? Yeah. We need to have all the bricks straight. They need to run, because it's going to be a mirror image of the Hartley lines. Right. Like, that they've got the same swoops in the corners that'll look like you're just mirroring it up above, and that they won't line up. And I think if they keep going at the same trajectory. So I think they're going to do a little shift. We found it early enough in the project that they can rectify it easier than if the whole thing was done and they had the binding. I don't even know if we're going to use binding sand. Yeah, you want to use something. Got to figure not whatever was used on the brick patio or path that leads up to our kitchen door. But the one before that. Yeah. Hopefully they can find some of that. Joyce said, do you give any weeds to your chickens? Yes, we do. In fact, I haven't been giving them a lot, though, because I've been just giving them stuff from the greenhouse that I weed out. Chicken weed from the floor. Lettuce that we haven't gotten to eat yet, because I grew a tremendous amount of lettuce, like way more than we can eat. So just every day they get a little bit of something. I didn't talk about the stone fountain, unique stone fountain. I don't know what fountain we're going to put in there, or if it will be a fountain. Probably not unique stone. No, I don't think unique stone has a big basin fountain. We got the one that I really liked. I might get 4 big pots because I really love unique stone. It's so beautiful. I've got beautiful things, and I do need 4 large containers. You don't have 4 large containers? Well, they're all at entrances and being utilized in some way. So we'll see. What about the 4 that we used to have? Those are around the Hartley. Oh, that's right. Yeah, and they're perfect. Yeah. They're the perfect scale. I think for this area, I would need to do something a little bit bigger, because they're going to be such part of the structure, I guess, of that area. So Jennifer said, I just bought 2 cement pedestal planters. Do you fill entirely with soil or rocks in the bottom? All the way with soil. And we use the Espoma organic potting mix. All the way with potting mix. Yes. Which is a soilless medium. Right. Garden Makeover said, if the duck returns to the orchard, would you let her nest there again this year? We would if she did return. We thought she did. So a duck that looks an awful lot like her showed up with a mallard, and they were in the grass yard by the Hartley, and Benjamin was over the moon. He wanted to go out there and, Mama, be quiet. We walked out there to take a look at her. And then the next day we saw her again out in the middle of the big lawn, just laying there, just chilling. And then I didn't see her after that. Found a spot. Maybe they're over by Salvador's Pond. They might be. I think that would be so special, though. I really think the area underneath the willow right here would be perfect for ducks. Put in a little duck house. Yeah. It's shaded there all the time. Gemma said, do Clearwater tulips come back year after year, or are they a tulip that fizzles out? Well, I've had really good luck with Clearwaters. In fact, that variety is the one I had planted up in our front flower bed, right in front of the formal entrance of our house. And we took out that whole the whole the whole garden up there, and they still come up. I still see some of those tulips coming up through all of that. So I think they're a pretty good one at stay. Their staying power is pretty good. When I do areas like this, though, like the areas at the end of the Hartley and then the 4 behind it, we're going to be planting in there. So they naturally start to kind of fade out a little bit when you start planting more things right over the top of them and around them. And usually I don't wreck a ton of the bulbs. And the ones I do dig out, because we're going to be planting trees in those 4 quadrants behind the Hartley. So I'm going to be digging out this many tulips, however many fit in this space, so I can put them somewhere else. Those are so pretty. The sauna behind the Hartley, the pink tulips. Yeah. Oh, they're gorgeous. I like those orange ones, though, in the South Garden. I do, too, yeah. Those are the Preston's Shogun. Yeah. Cheryl said, beautiful pumpkin-colored tulips. I'm just curious, a season or so ago you used a stand-up weeding tool. Do you not like using it? Do we still have it? Yeah, I was surprised that you didn't use that. It's from Hoselink. Yeah, well, I prefer to just, and I said in the video, like I know that there are tools that you can, it's just too much work. It's less work for me to get down there and I can boom, 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 15 weeds and then I pick them all up.
Sure.
Like standing there and prying up a weed and then putting it somewhere and then prying up another weed. That's like nice to be able to have a way to do it while you're standing, but it's not as efficient for me.
But if you can't bend.
Yeah, then it would be efficient.
Sure.
Yeah. And there will be a day where that will be me. I know this. Debbie said, my worst weed is morning glory vines. I've been fighting them for 35 years. Do you have any tips for eradicating them? 2 tips. 1, we smother it. So areas where it's been a problem, really the only 2 areas were that area in the lawn that we took out on the west side, just beyond the raised bed vegetable garden, and then like down into where the arbs were, there was like a patch, remember? They would come up in the grass like crazy over there. I was always over there pulling on them. And I knew that when we put the arbs in that we wouldn't be able to spray them out because they grow right up in the arbs and you can't spray anything on the morning glories without hurting the arbs. So we put landscape fabric down in those spots, and we don't use landscape fabric as a rule, but in areas like that where you have something that you can't spray it if it takes hold, then the only way to take care of it is to constantly pull it or smother it. And I think pulling it just angers it and makes it worse, and I think it makes the root system more robust. It's like building up a resistance to you pulling it, you know. The other thing, the deadweed brew or the lawnweed brew mixed at the highest concentrate has helped kind of knock it down, but you have to be consistent, and I think that's the biggest thing. You just keep on spraying, and eventually, or pulling or smothering, that sort of thing, you just have to keep after it. And I think that's where, like, we don't have our garden zoned anymore, but because Paul and Bethany, like, they don't need zones, they know exactly what to do and when to do it. But you know, before, when we were trying to get a feel for our space and we had other people coming in and out helping us, it was nice to have a zoning system, because then you knew that every area of your garden was getting hit once a week and getting looked at and weeded once a week. You stay on that kind of a consistent schedule, you eventually get on top of all those sorts of things. And then Tara said, absolutely love seeing all the bulbs bloom. I had planted 200 plus tulip bulbs and I've only seen about 4. Apparently I planted an all-you-can-eat buffet for the squirrels. Do you have any recommendations for keeping them at bay? They seem to leave the daffs alone, and maybe I'll stick to those. I mean, yeah, a lot of people will put like chicken wire down. I don't know if there's any repellents that actually work. If you guys know, because we don't deal with that problem here.
Cayenne pepper?
Does that
Maybe,
help?
I don't know.
mean, yeah, if you guys can chime in and help us out there, that would be great. It's so really hard for me when I can't like speak on experience for certain things, kind of like the black spot question. Well, like and there's sprays you can use, but we don't have to use those. So I can't really speak on it with any kind of like confidence. And that's it for today's video. We are going to head out and do some mulching today. And it's going to be a nice day, 74, 76 today.
Yeah, 76.
And it's fairly still, so it's going to be great. Hope you guys are having a great week, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.